Greetings, I am Shad. I'm sure that's not going to have the same effect. As you may know, I like superheroes. And when I say I like superheroes, I like them all. DC, Marvel. I mean, I have my preferences here and there, but generally, superheroes, I'm all in. The superhero of my childhood, the one that I was engrossed most with, and I say early childhood because I did kind of shift as I grew up, but it was Superman. And granted, when I, got a little bit older, towards the end of primary school, towards high school, I shifted to Spider-Man. But I have a very kind of a fond nostalgia. Basically, Superman has a soft spot right here. I really got into him as a kid, and I think Superboy was playing on TV when I was a kid, and so yeah, Superman. He was my guy. Now that I'm older, my tastes have matured, like a fine wine or a moldy cheese. That analogy is not going to help me much. But specifically, I require more out of characters and story to meet my standards. And, I am a little bit snobbish in that regard. Characters and plot, well, they need to press certain buttons for me to say that, yes, they're good. Good characters, good plot, so on and so forth. You see, I don't like plot holes. I don't like two-dimensional characters. I like depth, I like humor, all that fun stuff. And yes, I have achieved, I feel, a greater understanding of story structure and plot, purely because of my own endeavours to write stories and plot. And unfortunately, as I have come to this greater understanding of plot, I am sounding really full of myself. But this isn't anything special. Anyone is capable of figuring out, well, that doesn't really make sense, or that plot really shouldn't have happened, or he wasn't even in that location when that event happened, so how should he know about it? Plot. And so as I look upon Superman again in my later years, I cannot help but see many problems. And I don't like saying it because I love Superman. I have that soft spot in my heart for him. I think back of, how much I loved him as a kid, and then my younger version of myself, if he was able to look into the future and hear what I'm saying now, he'd probably be devastated to say, I'm not gonna grow up to be like you. And I'll say, bad luck, the future is inevitable. But yes, unfortunately, there are problems with Superman. Having said that though, there's some great stuff in Superman, because I say I've got a soft spot in my heart for him, I do, but I also still love a lot about Superman. There is a lot right with him, it's just I feel it's spoiled by all the things that are done wrong, and these things that are done wrong, they're kind of, I don't know, they're silly things, maybe because they were put into Superman's plot, his backstory, his character, when comic books weren't taken as seriously as they once were, or they were considered very much a kids medium kind of thing. And so as comic books have matured, unfortunately, we seem to be bogged down a bit by plot devices and structures and backstories of yesterday. The magical kiss of forgetfulness. Now, turns out that if you're wondering the magical kiss of forgetfulness, well, in the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, Lois Lane figures out who Superman is, and so Superman kisses her and wipes her memory by a kiss. That's the magical kiss of forgetfulness. Turns out that is a power or an interpretation of a power that Superman had in kind of the really early period and stuff. Well, thank goodness they got rid of that one. Now, DC, and indeed the people who take charge of the latter iterations of Superman, like the guys at the forehead of Smallville, director of Man of Steel, they have tried to fix certain things, but they've left out some big ones in my opinion. And like with DC, Oh, those annoying retcons. DC is like the retcon masters. No, DC are the retcon whores, alright? Because they're not masters at retconning. It ruins stuff, alright? Granted, they do need to fix things, but if you need to fix things, reboot stuff. Don't retcon it. But you could consider whores to be masters of their craft. Why on earth am I talking about prostitution? It's funny, I mentioned that DC, they don't reboot, but the New 52 essentially is a reboot. But the thing is, it wasn't a hard reboot. They said they kept some comic books in their continuity and not others. And to me, that's very retcon-like. They just can't just do a hard reboot. I have nothing against reboots. If it's done right, if they ruin it, well then I want to hunt them down in a mob armed with pitchforks and torches, where we will burn them at the stake. But even in the modern day of superheroes, you do sometimes see the really old school kind of secret hidden powers coming back. One of the Superman cartoons, it was when he's fighting these superhumans from Britain or something. I forget the name, you can look it up. But they basically try and kill him, and it kind of goes back to the pre-crisis Superman, the Golden Age Superman. There's a lot of different terms, but the original Superman was just so ridiculously overpowered, it's unfathomable. But anyway, he becomes, like, they try and do these crazy things to kill him, and then in the end it doesn't really even scratch him, or maybe he only gets a blood nose from it. But he starts to speak or communicate into the minds of these people, these superhumans that have just tried to kill him, and it's harkening back to the fact that Superman has telepathic powers. And so even the Golden Age, the pre-crisis Superman, even though they say he doesn't have those things, they do pop up even in the modern day of superheroes. And this is coming to one of the things that I feel is wrong with Superman, and that they have done incorrect with Superman throughout his entire continuity, all his history, is that they've never properly defined his powers. Now, you may be wondering, well, yes, they have. It's super strength, he's got flight, he's got heat vision, he's got the cold breath thingy. Could you smell his breath when he does the cold breath? But Superman's a nice guy, he probably takes Tic Tacs. Yeah, his powers are defined in that way, what they are, but the limits, alright, the furthest ends of how strong he really is, and how effective, or his heat vision is, how hot does it get, they've never been defined. And because they're undefined, whenever new creators or new people get behind the helm of Superman, they just kind of make him be able to be as strong or do things to achieve whatever needs to be achieved in the plot. And that's really sad. Like, the terrible thing that really lets Superman down in that regard is that it brings in Deus Ex Machina, because if you don't understand, and indeed even if the people behind the helm of whatever iteration of Superman's being made, even if they don't understand the limits of his powers, therefore his powers have no limit, and they'll just generally make them whatever they need to be to achieve what they want to achieve in the plot. Superman Returns, great example. He has just been dosed with a massive amount of kryptonite, okay? And he even got stabbed, and so he's been injured. But then he flies up into above the earth and to absorb more sun and everything like that. And that supposedly gives him enough strength to lift an entire continent made out of kryptonite. And that is clearly contradicting one of the supposed established rules of Superman, is that kryptonite either nullifies his powers or kills him. That's another problem. Kryptonite. How much of a dose does kryptonite kill him by? And this is a big problem in Smallville, alright? Because kryptonite has so many varying levels of effect against him where, and most often the case, Superman will have just enough strength to run away from the kryptonite or throw it away, unless, of course, in the plot, they have someone there to save him. And if that's the case, the kryptonite cripples him and he can't move at all. And so the effect of kryptonite is going up and down all over the place. And so, again, Deus Ex Machina. If you're wondering what Deus Ex Machina is, it basically means that no matter what the characters or the people in the plot do, the same result is going to happen. Either someone will come in completely outside of the plot and save them, or God will save them, or something like that. And really, renders all the efforts that the characters have done throughout the story completely useless. There was no point because no matter what they did, the end result was going to happen. It actually translates as the God in the machine or something like that. Classic examples that are quoted for Deus Ex Machina, Lord of the Flies, the kids are stranded on an island, and yes, I'm going to spoil it, sorry, bad luck. But then they're doing all this stuff and then someone just comes and saves them. The end of Battlestar Galactica, the TV series, is a bit Deus Ex Machina, and so it kind of comes into Superman in the sense that because his powers are undefined, there's no real limit. We don't know the limit. No matter what happens in the plot or anything like that, generally his powers are going to be strong enough to save the day because, you know, we don't know what his powers are. So the creators, the people behind the helm of whatever Superman's being made, they'll just say, well, Superman is now strong enough to lift an entire continent made out of kryptonite. There is a glorious rule in a few rules, in fact I think there's 3 rules, written by Sanderson, New York Times best-selling author, one of my favourite authors, absolute champion. He has written a series of rules regarding magic systems and superhero powers. They are magic systems. In regards to literature or just stories in general, you just class them, they're a type of magic system. The X-Men are all wizards and they can cast 1 spell each, basically. And so one of the rules that Brandon Sanderson has, and I'll be paraphrasing, your ability to resolve plot or end stories through the use of magic in a satisfying way is directly proportional to how much the audience understands that said magic. If they don't understand the magic, when the magic is used to resolve the plot, it's going to be very unsatisfying. Gandalf casts a spell and the ring is destroyed. Well, what the heck, okay? But even though the Mount of Doom is not a spell or anything like that, it comes into the fact that you understand the mechanics of a volcano. Everyone does, and so we understand that a volcano, just by general mechanics, probably is strong enough to destroy powerful magical items. So that's more satisfying than Gandalf just clicking his fingers and the ring is destroyed. But if there is a plot device in regards to the way Gandalf's magic works, and now this isn't how it works, but say if it did, that his power becomes exponentially stronger in the presence of great heat, right? So if he's close to fire, his magic is stronger and stuff like that. That one simple mechanic, if the audience understands, will help resolve plots in a much more satisfying way if it's used. So they want to destroy the One Ring, Gandalf wants to use his magic to destroy it. Well, he says, get me to Mount Doom because it's as hot as all hell there, and my magic will then be powerful enough to destroy the ring. It's a simple mechanic, all right? But it enables you to be able to resolve plot satisfyingly with magic. We do not understand Superman's magic, and no one does. It's never been really written down, the limits of what he's really capable of doing. And if they did that, Superman fighting people with his powers, it would be far more satisfying because we would know the limits of what he's working with, and we would also be able to see the powers interact in a better way. And so it would work much better if someone had written down, Superman is capable of lifting this amount of weight and no more, all right? And that's important because now he has limitations, and limitations create conflict, and conflict is the bread and butter of plot. And so this really needs to be done with every single one of Superman's powers. And granted, Superman is basically the most powerful superhero out of all the superheroes, right? I say that with a grain of salt because I know people have made other superheroes just for the sake of being stronger than Superman. The Sentinel, ring any bells? Or is it the Sentry? I think it might be the Sentry. I actually like him. He's got a cool design, very classic. But he was mainly created by Marvel, I feel, for them to be able to say, well, we have a superhero that could kick Superman's butt. He has the power of 1,000 exploding suns or something like that. Just to say something, I'm talking about Superman here and the problems that I feel exist in his backstory, his plot, his powers and stuff like that. Just to let you know, I will be sharing in the next video, I'll be making a part 2 to this video that explains how to fix those issues I feel, and that if I was to rewrite Superman, this is how I'd do it to fix the problems that I'm outlining right here. The other thing that really needs to be defined with Superman is Kryptonite. I don't like Kryptonite in general. I think it needs to be thrown out the window, alright? But if they were to use Kryptonite or continue using Kryptonite, they need to really define how it affects Superman, okay? If he is within 5 meters of Kryptonite, he's crippled and he can't move. If he's more than 5 meters away from Kryptonite, his powers are greatly weakened, or he simply has no powers. And if he's over 10 meters away from Kryptonite, then his powers are weakened. So it goes powers weakened, no powers, he's crippled, and it will kill him. And this can also be affected by quantity of Kryptonite. And so Kryptonite, the size of someone's fist, that's that. If it's the size of a basketball, then everything is multiplied. And so if it's within 10 meters of that Kryptonite, then he's crippled and he will die and things like that. And by simply understanding that, that can resolve plot, or Kryptonite can then be employed in plot to a far greater degree in a way that the audience will appreciate it far more, because they'll know, oh no, Superman's in danger, but if he gets this far away from it, he'll be okay. And if Kryptonite is so dangerous, like, it should, I reckon, burn his skin. Fire! But I don't like Kryptonite in general. Like I said, I think it should be thrown out the window. That's not to say that I don't like superheroes having weaknesses. I think superheroes having weaknesses can actually be done really cool, alright? And it's kind of, it's almost a pity that Superman is the only superhero with a fatal weakness, and it's also a pity that his fatal weakness happens to be something as stupid as Kryptonite. The reasons why I hate Kryptonite, again, it goes back to Deus Ex Machina, because it's a fictitious substance. We don't know where it's found, where it comes from. We don't know how much of it is on Earth. Therefore, the writers are free in an incorrect way to introduce Kryptonite whenever they need it. Lex Luthor needs Kryptonite. Whenever he needs it, he will find it. It's there, alright? But if in the plot they don't want Lex Luthor to have Kryptonite, well, it now suddenly comes that he can't find Kryptonite, so... And for other people who want to try and fight Superman, so villains, if you want villains to have a real fighting chance, they either need to be Doomsday level in strength, or they need the Superman's weakness, Kryptonite. But where do they find it? And so I feel there are a lot of plot holes and weaknesses in the plot as to how Kryptonite is found and stuff like that. In contrast, if Superman's weakness was something that we understand, a substance that is people are familiar with, it can be used in a far more satisfying way in the plot. For instance, if Superman's weakness was raw iron or something like that. Well, generally we know where iron is found. It's found in mountains or mines, or it's a substance used everywhere. So maybe iron is a poor example because it's too commonly found, but that would make things far more interesting in regards to Superman's plot. He would have to overcome so much. So I'm picking something out of the air, maybe diamonds. Why would diamonds affect Superman's powers? That's another big plot device. You want to make something that has a logical reason as to why it would affect Superman, and I do have that answer, but that's in my next video on how to fix Superman. This is my problems with him. But the thing is, diamonds, they're rare, alright? We know where to find them, and so suddenly it's far more usable in the plot in a logical way. The other thing, now it's pity, it's a pity because there's potential here, right? And that's that Superman gets his power from the sun. That's kind of a cool idea because the sun is a limitless source of energy. I say limitless with a grain of salt because we know that the sun is going to burn out in a few billion, whatever, million years. But for all intents and purposes, limitless source of energy. And so for Superman, who is so powerful, having a power source as abundant as the sun makes sense. What doesn't make sense is that it's yellow. In fact, it goes further than not making sense. It's actually a bit nonsensical, to the point of just being flat out ridiculously stupid. You see, yes, you might be able to consider that our sun looks yellow and that other stars have different colours, red dwarfs and white dwarfs. But the fact that they're saying Superman is affected by different colour strands of light is really stupid, because the light that our sun gives off actually has every single colour within that beam of light, yellow and red included, and so Superman would be getting his powers while at the same time as losing his powers, because he is being hit by technically yellow and red light at the same time. It's only when light is fractioned, pushed apart, do you see all the colours of the rainbow. Indeed, it's light that gives us colour, and so when light hits the surface of something, that surface will absorb certain strands of light and reflect other strands of light. And so when you see the colour red, that is the light coming from our sun hitting something, and that surface is absorbing all other colours except red, and then red comes to our eyes. That's what we see. And so the fact that we're able to see the whole spectrum of colours, and that's debatable because if there was a colour that we couldn't see, we wouldn't even really know it. Alright, so yes. But the fact that we can see all the colours that we know of means that the light that is coming from our sun is all colored light. It's not yellow light, all right? It's not all purely red light. It is just light. So are you seeing the stupidity in the yellow sun kind of thing? Granted, the levels of radiation could differ between types of suns, so red dwarfs, but it's really just the intensity of that radiation that would differ. Just to let you know, light is radiation as well. These are all different wavelengths of the electromagnetic field. So yeah, defining it as a certain color doesn't work. What does work, okay, what could work, is if Superman got his powers from certain wavelengths of electromagnetism or radiation. That could work. I'll speak more of that in my next video. The other thing that really bothers me about Superman is that he gets his powers from his Kryptonian heritage, alright? Now, granted, I have nothing against that. A very advanced alien race could have a way to make themselves and have superpowers. The fact that they say this is a common genetic trait between all Kryptonians is utterly stupid. It's dumb. First of all, you would need to really kind of specialize the evolutionary path of a certain alien race for them to gain the ability to absorb sunlight and then get superpowers from it. The thing that really annoys me, so look, if you were to work with the evolutionary path of an alien race, there's ways that you could pull this off in a logical way. The thing that annoys me about it, it's just really stupid, right, is that Kryptonians, all Kryptonians, have this potential to have incredible superpowers, so why the heck don't they have them? Oh, because their sun isn't yellow. Really? Really? The very fact that they know that they have the genetic potential to gain these incredible powers by being exposed to a certain frequency of light, they would make special light bulbs that would shine that frequency of light to get the powers, and Kryptonians would be flying everywhere. I mean, who in their right mind, if they knew they had this potential with them to get such great powers, wouldn't do it to get their powers? Now, granted, there could be a sociological reason why the Kryptonians don't allow their population at large to get these powers, because if everyone has these powers, what are the petty criminals going to do when they get their powers? They'll rob stores and flatten cities. So the Kryptonian government could outlaw their entire species to be exposed to this frequency of light just because of the destructive potential that each one of them possesses when they get these powers. But nothing like that is in the plot. But it's still a big leap to even say that all Kryptonians have this genetic potential in them, or just this genetic trait, because that's a big evolution happening there. Maybe it was a secret. Again, it wasn't said that this was a secret, and so one of the biggest flaws that any story can ever make, right, is if something is important in regards to the plot, but it's not explained, so something that's terrible for any story, movie, TV series, book to do, to have something so unexplained or to be silent on that the audience, the readers, then need to postulate or fill in the blanks or to correct the plot holes themselves. And so the fact that I'm sitting here trying to postulate ideas of how the Kryptonians could have had this power and not done anything with it, the very fact that I need to do that is a big problem. And the pity is, oftentimes things like this can be corrected with a single sentence thrown in the backstory or the plot or something like that, and then done. It's fixed. But more often than not, no, it's just, completely silent. A great example of this, by having a plot hole that could have been fixed by a simple line, is in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, okay? Obi-Wan clearly says that Imperial stormtroopers are very accurate when they're inspecting that big kind of, I don't even know what it is. It's like a giant car. But anyway, it's been blown to hell. And and they're thinking, oh, sand people have done it. So Obi-Wan says, no, but these scorch marks are far too accurate. Only Imperial stormtroopers are so accurate. Okay, so they established that stormtroopers are good shots. Yet, for the entire rest of the movie, and in fact, really throughout almost the whole Star Wars series, stormtroopers can't hit the broadside of a barn. But if we were really to just focus on that movie alone, the part where we see stormtroopers being terrible shots is when Han Solo and all them are running away from them on the Star Destroyer. No, they're trying to escape the Death Star, not a Star Destroyer. It's just, George Lucas really likes naming his things after stars. The Star Annihilator, the Star Eradicator, the Star Progenerator, Star Prolificator, the Star Scarer. Now I'm really just scraping the bottom of the barrel. They can't hit anything they're shooting past, and there are things that fans have come up with to explain that terrible plot hole. Fans shouldn't have to do this, but they do it, and that is Darth Vader wanted them to escape because they had a tracking device or something on there, so by letting them escape, he would then find the rebel base and they could then blow it to hell with the Death Star. And so Darth Vader ordered his stormtroopers not to hit them, just to scare them off, make it look like they're trying to stop them. This could have been fixed with one line, one sentence from any of the characters saying, "I can't believe they didn't hit us." Princess Leia replies, "What are you talking about? They were missing us on purpose. They wanted us to escape." Problem solved. It took 2 seconds. And so, yes, there are ways to explain how the Kryptonians have this power and stuff like that, but we shouldn't have to do it. The writers should do it. It's lazy writing if they don't do it. Of course, though, Superman was written in the classic age of superheroes, and they didn't, it was for kids, so they didn't need to go to such detail and stuff like that. They could just say crazy things and let them, kids will accept it. Superman gets his powers from yellow sunlight. But comic books and superheroes have matured over the years, and so it would be nice when people are revisiting Superman in the many retcons, and dare I say reboots. And so the fact that Kryptonians have this incredible power within them and no one is using it, it's not used in their society or anything like that, and they're an advanced alien race, they're capable of interstellar travel, yet they're not capable of making a light bulb that shines yellow light so they can get these cool powers. It just doesn't work. And of course, one of the other next big problems with Superman is the fact that he looks completely human. This is done so often. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Doctor Who, but the fact that Time Lords look human or humans look Time Lord, from an evolutionary perspective, it is extremely unlikely that aliens would even be humanoid. But I'm, of course, willing to make exceptions in regards to fantasy, superhero genres and stuff like that, because one of the big reasons why in the media, movies, television shows, comic books, that they make aliens look human, they want the audience to identify with these characters. They want them to be seen as people or humans, and when you make them look unhuman, well, it creates difficulties. They also want their aliens to look sexy. One of the guiding principles of the alien designs in Avatar, Natira, the girl, one of the guiding principles they used in designing how this alien would look like was, would you want to do her? And so pop culture is very obsessed with attractive aliens. But as Avatar showed, it's not my thing, but it's a thing for other people. Aliens can be made to look sexy while still looking at least a little bit alien. Now DC generally does okay with their other aliens. They at least make their skin a different color, or they make just mildly different alterations and stuff like that. But Superman, no, he looks completely human. Now, of course, how could you call him Superman if he didn't look human? Well, I do have an answer to that in my next video. But that is a problem. It's a very poor treatment of an alien race. Superman, he is an alien. They establish he is full-blown alien, okay? They never mention anything about his internal organs, at least Doctor Who says that Time Lords have 2 hearts. But from the things that I watch, they say Superman has a heart and other things like that. I've never, in my entire history of reading comics, you might have seen or heard something like this. I never have. Never seen or heard any mention about Superman's internal biology being different to humans either. Except for his cells. His cells soak up sunlight. This could be fixed, like I mentioned before, with a simple one-line sentence. But of course, the audience shouldn't have to do this. It should be done by the writers. But could it be that the Kryptonians are a highly evolved state of humans? In some ancient era, humans were abducted, or there was an advanced race. They're long-lost descendants of the city of Atlantis. But by giving them a connection to humans, that could explain why they look human, okay? But if there's no connection like that, it's very, very poor writing and it's a very poor treatment of aliens to have aliens look human. Another big problem in Superman, right, in regards to his backstory, is the destruction of his home planet. I'm not saying that an advanced alien race could not be wiped out by certain events and everything. What I am saying is that no advanced alien race would not be able to tell that their planet's about to explode from some type of unstable geological event. They're capable of interstellar travel, people! It takes a lot of intelligence to achieve that level of technology. And you're telling me that an alien race that has that level of technology would not be smart enough to figure out that their planet's exploding? It defies reason. Jor-El, the only one capable of knowing the planet's about to blow up. Seriously. And even if Jor-El was the only one who knew, there are a lot of Kryptonians out there, you know, and given with appropriate evidence that Jor-El had, that the planet's about to explode, who in their right mind would say, no, you're crazy? We're talking about proper evidence that he had, that he was showing them. And remember, they're an advanced scientific race, alright? And so they would understand the process of evidence and gaining an appropriate conclusion. And that conclusion would be, hey Jor-El, you're right, our planet is about to explode. And so the backstory event of the Kryptonians being wiped out by their planet exploding is just executed really poorly. It's just dumb. It's not to say that I don't feel the Kryptonians could have been wiped out. Alright, there are heaps of logical, easy ways. Nuclear war or whatever, you know? Another alien race wiped them out. Brainiac wiped them out. There are simple ways to fix this one. It doesn't take too much thinking, yet keeping it, I mean, they kept it in the Man of Steel, and it just defies reason, it defies logic, you know, and it could have been fixed so much easier, because they did have like a big war thing going on, and so in the middle of this big war, you could have had a crazy, you know, doomsday whatever person click off a doomsday weapon that explodes the planet. That explains it a lot better than we're in the middle of this war and, oh, separate to this war that we're having, we've dug too deep in harvesting our core and our planet blows up. And lastly, Superman is, he is overpowered, but again, that's actually some of his appeal. He is just the boss, alright? You can't take on Superman, he is just so strong. Now, some of this would be fixed if they just simply defined how powerful he is, and they would probably have to make something astronomical. And they've run into problems with this in the past by Superman being so powerful. In the classic age of Superman back in the day, he was like ridiculously powered, and they even toned him down from the pre-crisis Superman. Because the problem they were having with Superman is that no one could challenge him. He could just kill everyone with a flick of his finger. And so, yeah, they toned him down. He is still ridiculously strong. And it's also so undefined that in, like, little, you know, parts in plots and other things like that, his powers just spike. They skyrocket and he can just do pre-crisis level feats. He can move the Earth. Was that pre-crisis, though? I don't know. But that is something Superman did. The Green Lantern made a green lasso around his chest and Superman literally moved the Earth. So I feel it would help out Superman if they took his powers down several notches again, because you want conflict, challenge, resistance. It needs to be hard for Superman to do these things because that means it's more satisfying when he achieves it. And you've probably found that in your own life. When you achieve something that you found particularly difficult, you will find that achievement was very, very satisfying. But if it was not difficult and you just did it like that, well, you don't really care. It's like, oh, yeah, cool. There you go. So you can still keep Superman ridiculously powerful, but when I say tone it down, I guess I'm referring it to the pre-crisis Superman, toning it down from there, and they've tried to do that. My problem is because his powers are undefined, he often spikes back up to that power level, or approximations to that power level. And so perhaps just the fact that the overpowered side of Superman, perhaps that would be fixed simply by defining his powers like I first mentioned. But those are the things that I feel let down Superman in a big way, because he's awesome. He's the most iconic superhero. I love Superman, alright? And so it breaks my heart that these issues, these plot holes, these problems with his origin and just the makeup of this character, it's such a tragedy that those things really let him down and he does not reach the ultimate level of awesomeness that he could reach if they fix these problems. And so how would I fix those problems? Well, I will tell you in the next video. So for now, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time.